The grand finale of the Emperor's plan has finally arrived. Another Titan-level beast, Rodan, appeared. It is a legendary ancient sky overlord. He let out an extremely piercing roar and suddenly relaxed. The terrifying twin wings Earth will escalate once again, creating a hellish lava-like terror. Meanwhile, on the other side, the battle between the enraged Titan X and Kong finally began. Vajra leapt down from towering cliffs, reaching into the clouds. Tens of thousands of tons of weight, combined with terrifying gravitational acceleration. Like a meteorite, he slammed hard into the ground. This was not a probing sparring at all. It was a world-shattering deathmatch. Mrs. X, who doesn't have pink crystal spikes, there was simply no time to react offensively. It was this overwhelming force, pressing firmly against the ground and rubbing against the surrounding terrain, under the collision of two massive bodies. Instant change. The hard rock shattered like tofu. Yellow sand and earth swirled up in the sky, completely obscuring the sky. At this moment, Kate was at the very center of the storm. He lay at the feet of these two giants, looking even smaller than an ant. Above his head was King Kong's frenzied giant fist. Every heavy strike was accompanied by the Titan X's piercing roar and the earth. Violent tremors. A random falling stone or a tiny deviation from a very thin toe. For him, it was a fatal fate that led to his death in an instant. Fortunately, Tim and Xiaomei had already taken control of the base's control room with their team. Xiaomei rushed to the console, quickly analyzed the glaring red on the data screen. Alerts and ever-surging waveform charts. It made her heart sink to rock bottom. The system has already fallen into a vicious feedback loop. There is always the risk of another collapse. He keenly realized that this was not a code error at all, but someone deliberately maximizing the connection power and the other party's true intentions. It was not at all about tame or controlling this giant beast. Instead, he wanted to use extreme painful stimulation to completely anger him. Now, routine operations have completely failed. The only way is to carry out a rough physical disconnection. Meanwhile, the life and death struggle outside the base had entered its most brutal phase. Kong, relying on his more agile movements and violent strength, suppressing every time the Titan X giant beasts were struggling. Even hand-to-hand combat can trigger a small local earthquake. Kit could be caught up in the conflict at any moment. At the moment, the vanguard was about to strike. Kiko drove a stolen jeep, rampaging like an enraged beast. He forced his way through the gap between the two Titan behemoths. Huizi was still about 10 meters from Nikon, so she decisively drove the car to the top. A gust of wind strong enough to blow people away rode and crawled over to Kate's side. He grabbed Kate, who was almost buried alive, and the two supported each other, running desperately in the battle of giant beasts. At this moment, the enraged Titan X relied on its size and tentacles advantage. He firmly suppressed King Kong. The two fought with all their might and finally broke into the base. At that moment, Titan X suddenly turned and found his child. The instinct of maternal love. This causes the control device to be instantly overloaded. Accompanied by a violent surge of energy, the high-pressure energy binding her instantly collapsed. Then, Titan X turned and ran toward the child, the red glow on his body slowly fading. Huge tentacles gently reach into the base, taking the child away. The giant beast that has regained its instincts. Not because Vajra fought desperately and was beaten until his face was covered in blood. The Vajra silently turns and climbs up the hill. Make way for Titan X. However, the crisis did not end with Titan X's retreat. Xiaomei quickly identified a fatal problem by comparing the terrain. Titan X went in the wrong direction. It deviated from the established path leading to a rift in the world's axis, heading toward unknown territory. If this extremely dangerous giant is left unchecked, wandering aimlessly across human territory, wherever it goes, will surely bring suffering to the people. The hearts of everyone who had just relaxed were once again in doubt. They must do everything possible to guide this giant beast back onto the right path. Just as everyone was at a loss, when you don't know how to guide a monster weighing tens of thousands of tons. A deafening roar of the propeller roared overhead. Shaw piloted a military-grade heavy helicopter. Breaking through thick clouds, they landed steadily on the grass before them. The four hurried forward to board, but Kate suddenly felt as if she had been pinned down. He stopped in his tracks. He turned to look not far away. Another white helicopter Kentaro, preparing to take off, was there. His face was covered in tears, his eyes filled with pleading and despair. Trying to stop Kentaro from leaving, he had just walked to the edge of life and death. He didn't want to lose any more loved ones, but Kentaro was made up of his mind. Faced with Kate's attempts to persuade him to stay, he showed an extraordinary calmness and determination. Kentaro firmly believed there is also a father from another time and space in the world. Axio struggled desperately, waiting for rescue. He believes it is time to take on the responsibilities of being a son. No matter how heartbroken Kate appeared, Kentaro remained completely unmoved. He must stay and find a way to enter the world axis. Time could no longer hold Kate grieving. He forced himself to endure the intense pain in his heart. They turned and boarded the helicopter piloted by Shaw, and the group quickly took off, heading in the direction where Titan X disappeared. Give it your all to catch up. Shaw piloted the helicopter through the complex terrain of the strange rock spirit Patrol Valley. Gripping the Titan tightly, Xiaomei was anxiously adjusting a set of high-power external audio equipment in the rear cabin. She was preparing to play a special audio clip. Those were high-frequency sound waves that Kiko had previously recorded with professional equipment. It is considered the language used by behemoths to communicate. They tried to use this sound to attract Titan X's attention. Leading toward the fissure, Xiaomei took a deep breath, pushed the volume to the limit. The earliest sound, and the penetrating high-frequency electronic sound instantly echoed throughout the valley. This tactic really worked. The Titan X, which had been moving blindly, suddenly stopped in its heavy tracks. He slowly turned his massive head, eyes covered in crystals, fixated on the helicopter overhead. But at this critical moment, an accident happened. Due to long-term full-load operation, the amplifier modules of audio equipment, the piercing sound of complete burning, stopped abruptly, lost the guidance of sound. Titan X is clearly losing interest again, ready to continue deviating from the course. Faced with this sudden upheaval, Kate made a decision that sent chills down everyone's spine. He demanded that Shaw immediately fly the helicopter right in front of the giant beast's face, as close as possible. Kiko thought he was crazy. This is pure suicidal behavior. But Kate's gaze was unusually resolute. Shaw looked at Kate, his reckless expression. Gritting his teeth, he pushed the joystick helicopter hard. Heading toward Titan X, the helicopter hovered very close to the beast's face. The fuselage was violently jolted by the powerful airflow generated by the heavy breathing of the Titan X. It felt as if it would disintegrate in midair at any moment. Kate unfastened her seatbelt. Only a simple protective rod remained, locked against a suffocating gale that could suffocate anyone. Resolutely, he stepped onto the wide-open hatch slanting panel. She had no weapons, no protective gear. He openly faced this raging ancient giant beast without any concealment. Madam X opened her sword mouth and let out a soul-shaking roar, terrifying Fangza within reach. Kate closed her eyes, forcing yourself to overcome your most primal fears. When he opened his eyes again, there was no panic in his gaze. Instead, it is an extremely gentle, inclusive, and powerful radiance. Quietly gazing into the eyes of the giant beast, deep within, it continuously sends signals of comfort and guidance, trying to build a kind of legend that exists only in legend. The miracle of cross-species, spiritual connection truly happened. Titan X's originally restless and agitated emotions, under Kate's gaze, miraculously, it slowly calmed down. A trace of doubt flashed in his huge eyes. She then seemed to understand Kate's intentions. His massive body began to slowly turn. He stepped in the direction the helicopter was hovering. The attendant saw this. He immediately carefully turned the nose around, like a gentle giant dog, flying with Titan X toward the hidden rift deep within the mountains. The helicopter finally landed in an open river valley, and everyone jumped off the plane. He nervously watched the river ahead. Not long after, the massive body of Titan X appeared on the towering cliffs on the opposite shore. He lifted his head and let out an extremely long cry toward the sky, and a long laugh full of a certain sense of ritual. The voice echoed continuously among the mountains. It seemed to announce a journey of some ancient contract. Immediately after, once calm river suddenly erupted in an extremely dazzling rainbow-colored light at the center. A thick beam of energy shot up into the sky. A massive swirling energy formed on the water's surface. The whirlpool's sleeping rift was finally fully activated by this returning giant beast. Kate walked alone with determination, walking toward the pillar of light, radiating divine light. He walked to the shore where the water was rushing and slowly stretched out his arm. Titan X lowered its proud head and stretched out tentacle-like limbs. Extremely tender, it touched Kate's fingertips. At this moment, there was no confrontation between humans and monsters, no killing or fear. There is only one soul resonance that transcends language and species. Kate was in tears, looking at this giant beast. Afterwards, the massive body of Titan X gradually merged into the dazzling pillar of light, accompanied by a violent energy fluctuation and a deafening water explosion beast. It completely disappeared from the human world. It returned to its rightful place. However, just as the energy from the rift gradually dissipated, standing in the distance, shower through the still not fully closed, translucent energy barrier, he actually saw himself decades ago. That young shower wore old-fashioned uniforms, trapped at the other end of the world's axis, separated by twisted space-time, gazing at them from afar as they are now. Huizi followed Xiaoyer's gaze and rushed to the barrier. He passed the boundaries of nothingness, trying to hear clearly what the young Shao was saying to him. But the barriers of time and space are so cold and merciless that they block all voices from being transmitted. Old Shower quietly stood beside Huizi. Her eyes were filled with endless sorrow and tenderness. He quietly told Kiko that young self was actually saying goodbye to him until this moment. Only then did Huizi finally understand everything. Back then, Xiao'er kept the two of them in secret. The fact that we were once at the center of the world was not due to selfish betrayal, but to protect her. Xiao'er was well aware of the dangers and unpredictability of that world. She would rather bear a lifetime of infamy. He would rather deprive Huizi of the right to choose, and make sure he can return safely to the real world, return to the path of his original life. Looking beyond the barrier, young Xiao'er smiled and raised his right hand. Old Xiao'er also slowly raised his heavy arm. He returned the gesture with great respect. This is not just a farewell to the years gone by. It is also a regret spanning half a century. The light of the final reconciliation barrier of misunderstanding and sacrifice completely faded away. Everything returned to calm, only the wind remains. Echoing through the valley, time flew by. After 6 weeks, the apparent crisis seemed to have subsided. Kate and Kiko strolled through the memorial hall of the Emperor organization. The tall walls are engraved with messages of exploration of the unknown, and the name of the pioneer who gave his life. Sai stated that, in order to avoid causing massive panic worldwide, and to guard against those who threaten the world's axis of power, the frenzied covetousness of forces harboring ulterior motives, the higher-ups decided to completely conceal their true experience of coming back from the dead. Their names cannot be engraved on the walls of heroes. Their achievements can only be forever buried in darkness. Afterwards, Marcus led the two of them to an underground office. Here, Tim unveils the mystery of Emperor Organization 2.0. This is a brand new architecture built to adapt to new forms. It is more concealed. The format is more flexible. Most importantly, once something goes wrong, the authorities can always shirk responsibility, denying any connection or stalking any issues. Marcus pulled out 2 brand new work ideas from his pocket. They were handed to Kate and Kiko respectively. He hoped they could take over this shady underground department, utilize their unique experiences and knowledge, continue exploring the secrets of the Titan world. Kate and Kiko had no other choice to continue searching for family members missing in the unknown world, in order to uncover the truth hidden in the abyss. In the end, they could only grit their teeth and accept this compromise-filled arrangement. Meanwhile, Xiao'er's battle was far from over. He did not stop moving just because the rift closed. He came alone with his backpack to a secluded water tank in Thailand. In a simple stilted house built on the water, in the dining room, he found a local county resident named Awu. Xiao'er pulled out a thick volume of Taiju from his sleeve. He brought out the crucial intelligence he wanted. Awu looked at the stubborn, persistent old man before her. His eyes were filled with warning. He told Shaw, "Recently, unidentified forces have appeared. Everywhere I was asking about these ancient secrets. Those people try to control the power of the Titans, trying to play the role of God in this fragile world." To make Shaw understand the seriousness of the situation, Awu rolled up her sleeves without any hesitation, showing the dense clusters on his arms, a huge scar as ugly and terrifying as a centipede. That is the painful price paid for trying to approach the power of the gods. But Shaw was completely unmoved. He had been through too much. Too much was lost. He knew very well how fragile and powerless humans are before true titans. He must find the ultimate trump card to counterbalance this destructive force. Shaw resolutely bid farewell to Awu and drew his sharp machete alone. Cutting through the perilous tropical jungle, a bloody path heads deep into the mountains. He climbed up a desolate red earth hillside, panting. When he stood atop the mountain and looked ahead, the scene before him, this completely confirmed his wild suspicions. On the distant horizon, a massive volcano was erupting violently. The silhouette of a massive, breathtaking creature was slowly revealing. That was the Titan behemoth Rodan. He is a legendary ancient sky overlord. At this moment, he was violently breaking free from the crater. He let out an extremely piercing roar, then suddenly relaxed. Those enormous, terrifying wings burning like hellish lava. Xiao'er lifted her head, staring intently at the terrifying figure in the sky, capable of destroying heaven and earth. There was not a trace of retreat or fear in her eyes. Xiao'er had no way out. He witnessed firsthand the cross-dimensional encounter between his younger self and Kiko. He knew that time in this world does not flow in one direction. He must uncover the secret hidden deep within the volcano, must be mastered before those crazy ambitious ones. That key that can determine the fate of the world. The moment Rodon shot up from the crater, Xiao'er knew that humanity's time was running out. This conspiracy and struggle spanned decades. Various factions are fiercely competing on this grand chess game. Titans has returned to his world. Meanwhile, Leidong's flames are igniting new flames of war. The truth behind the Emperor's plan is being peeled back layer by layer. Everyone is struggling desperately in this storm, trying to find that faint trace of vitality. He knew all those previous games were just appetizers. The real war, a final battle concerning the survival of humanity, was only just beginning.